What is going on, great ones? The greatest audience of all time for the greatest podcast of all time. What is going on, y'all?
Weird how that works out.
Don't answer that question because I can't hear you. Because actually, we're gonna record this and it probably won't even be put out for at least a week. And then, I mean, maybe if you want, like, if you know me and you want to like call me and be like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" That you could ask me. But other than that, don't ask me that.
Or they could just, go and leave a 5-star review, a little comment.
Oh, absolutely. Or they could go to Only the Greatest Gym. Like the actual place that you can go to.
Yep, could do that too.
And say what's up to us. Maybe crush a workout.
Yep.
Because, crushing. Actually, I think Doug Miller stole my my gym name that I wanted, the Crush It Coliseum.
Really?
Yeah, he stole it from me.
Oh, man. Where's that at? I haven't heard of that.
Doug Miller, the owner of
I know who Doug Miller is, but I
think his gym is called the Crush It Coliseum. Crush
Really?
It's his Crush It's his like coined term.
Crush It is his thing, yeah. I don't keep up with fitness as much as I used to, like the fitness industry.
I would say I don't either, really.
Kind of do my own thing.
Kind of goes hand in hand with that one podcast we did where we talked about if you're worried about everybody else's shit, then you need to be doing more shit. Yeah. So I try to always make sure I'm doing more shit.
Yep.
I try to make sure that, I'm pursuing my goals that I have set for myself.
Right.
Which is a perfect segue into today's podcast topic.
Dang.
Man, I keep hitting my ear on this thing, and my goal is to not.
Turn it like more towards you.
Nope.
Yeah, there you go. They didn't get it further away from you, but if it's turned towards you. I think we got
the slippage going on because this is the Backyard Barbecue 2000 table. But hey, don't worry about the slippage, everybody.
Backyard Barbecue 5000?
We need to upgrade to the 5000. Yeah. Actually, I think we need the 10,000 because the 5,000 is probably just longer. The 10,000 is more beefy.
Okay.
I don't know if that's an actual thing. Goals, man.
All right.
Our goal is to get a better table.
That's right.
We're going to pursue that goal this week.
It's got to be done.
So the point of this pod, and Phil said this off camera just now or a little while ago. The point of this podcast is not necessarily to give advice because, again, we're just regular guys that are.
I'm nobody worth listening to. Let's just say that.
No, you're worth listening to. We're pursuing greatness, but the point. So we're not here to give advice. We're here to talk about what has worked for us and maybe even what hasn't worked for us, and because both of us at the young age of 29 have done a lot of things wrong
for sure
and some things right. So this is kind of the point of the podcast is to talk about that, document those things, interact with the audience or the gym goers or whoever may
the
be
thousands
listening.
Of listeners,
500 million listeners.
Millions, sorry.
500 million.
Sorry.
So everybody in the United States listens, plus people in like Australia too, probably listening to us. They're probably setting goals.
Yeah. So
goal setting, man. Goal setting's been it's been a roller coaster ride for me in my life. And I say that because I think figuring out what worked for me has been a roller coaster rather than setting goals has been a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out which strategies worked for me and executing has been a roller coaster for me. Spent a lot of time bullshitting, not doing the right things, not working towards any particular goals. And it's cost me a lot of time. But hey, we're on the right track now, man.
Well, during any of that time, did you know what your goals were?
I would say for a lot of it, probably no. I didn't even have I didn't even have a if you'd have came up and been like, Darryl, what's your goal? You'd have probably got a blank stare. You probably got the sarcastic, well, oh man, what's your goal?
Yeah.
That's what you probably got at me.
That was the point that I was trying to make is a lot of people maybe they have a goal, but it's some like fluff in the air.
It's not.
I want to have $1 million. Well, duh. Who doesn't?
It's not. Well, I think a lot of them are broad.
Right.
I want to be happy. Me too.
Yeah.
What makes you happy? Because what makes you happy or you happy doesn't necessarily make me happy. That didn't make me happy. Maybe somebody likes getting their headphone hit on the microphone stand. I don't.
Me
But,
either.
you know, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
So the point is, be specific. What is your goal? And be specific with it. I think that's step number one. Define it.
A lot of times, that the initial goal.
Know your goal.
The initial goal for a lot of people is broad. I want to be happy. Yeah, duh, me
I wanna
too.
be rich.
Or I want to be rich. You know, I want to have X amount of money, X amount of investments, or you know, I want to get this position at work. Yeah, that's fine for step one, but you need to.
Well, I don't think that is.
I
don't think that is fine for first. Well, I think that's a good precursor, but I think step one should be to define your goal specifically.
Yeah, you're
That's
just kind
step
of
number
putting
one.
it all into. You're kind of, you know, combining it all into one
Backyard
step.
Barbecue 2000, man. Careful.
Where all I'm saying is when you think about your goals, the first thought that comes into your head is gonna be broad.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Step number one, define them.
Yep, and then
Be specific.
but you got to narrow that down.
Step number one, S, specific. Be specific. What is your goal or goals? And more importantly, if your goal is to be rich or to be shredded, if your goal is to be rich or to be in shape, what does that mean? Because for one person to be rich may have some money in the bank. For another person to be rich, maybe they have enough money where they don't necessarily have to work. Maybe another person to be rich is they have to have $1 billion. You know,
they need to be able to travel the world at any given second.
Yeah. Okay, if you want to be in shape, what is in shape to you? To me, it may be, if you can see my abs, I'm in shape. To somebody else, if I can't run 10 miles, I'm not in shape. To another individual, they may need to bench press a certain amount at any given moment. Maybe that's in shape to them. Maybe they need to be able to level up in their jiu-jitsu training. You know, maybe that's in shape to them. So be specific, define it. What is it for you? What do you want? And I think that was the biggest, you hit the nail on the head earlier. That would have been, you know, a few years ago, that would have been the hardest question for me to answer. I didn't have any specific goal laid out. I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I didn't even think about exactly what I wanted. I was just kind of going through the motions in life and being an idiot. And so be specific, lay it out, man. And let's move on to number 2. You know, so you're specific. I think that you should have something. I think you have to be able to gauge it. You got to be able to measure it. So, you know, whatever your goal is, if your goal is to save $1 million, you can measure that.
Right.
If you want to save $1 million in 10 years, well, you're going to have to save $100,000 a year to get to your $1 million in 10 years. You can measure that, right? You can break it down again. That's $25,000 a quarter. You know, every 3 months rather, you would have to save $25,000. If your goal is to lose 50 pounds, that's measurable. If you want to do it in 5 months, that's 10 pounds a month that you're going to have to lose. You have to measure that. You have to track it. So define it, get specific, and be able to measure it, right? How can you gauge it, like you said, there's kind of fluff, there's kind of out there.
I think, you have to be able to measure it as you go.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said earlier, a lot of people's goals are just fluff.
They're vague.
Fluff up in the air.
Vague.
You know what I mean? They think of it off the top of their head and they tell you what their goals are. But if you can measure it as you go, then one, you can get that momentum rolling and actually
stack up the small wins.
Yep, you know you're moving towards that end goal. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And thirdly, okay, so you've got specific, you've defined them exactly what they are. You're able to measure it, and you know how that you're going to measure it and track it. And I think you need to, okay, so this I guess could coincide with part number one, but are they achievable? Are they realistic?
I think being realistic is super important.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, yeah, I want to have $1 million next week or.
Yeah. My goal is to be a successful business owner. That is an achievable goal and you say, okay, well, what kind of business are you going to run? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to own a business.
Yeah, that's a problem.
What type of business? What are you going to do? Are you going to sell Backyard Barbecue 2,000 tables? Are you going to train people? Are you going to work on cars? What are you going to do? What's your business, right? So it has to be realistic. And I think, yeah, so you have to know what your business is going to be. But also, you can't be like, I want to be a billionaire next week.
And that's my goal. Like on that note, being realistic with that example would be picking an industry that you actually know about.
Right. Or at least that you are learning about, that you're actively engaged in.
Yeah.
So, be realistic. Can you actually achieve it? If your goal is to be, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. Well, I think
that has its place, but
it has its
not
place,
good advice.
But not overall good advice. You have to be able to achieve it, man. Don't be like, hey, I want to save $1 billion in 6 months, because it's probably not going to happen. And okay, so what's your plan now? So you've defined specifically what it is, and it's achievable, right? It's obtainable. You can measure it, right? What's your plan, man? How are you going to get there? Are you going to, if your goal is to save, $100,000 in a year, are your milestones going to be quarterly? Okay. At the end of March, I need to have $25,000 saved. And then after the end of the next quarter, you're going to have 50, and so on. So how are you going to do it? Are you going to break it down into weekly? You know what I'm saying? Or are you going to, what's the plan here? You got to lay it all out. Make a plan. Make a plan of action, y'all. Write it down, put it in your phone, get you a dry erase board, whatever it is. Make a plan. And I can't elaborate on that, really any further. If you don't have a plan, even a specific, measurable, achievable goal, if you don't have a plan, it ain't shit. It's not worth, what's your plan? Well, I don't know. Well, my goal is to save $100,000 by the end of the year, and but I don't really know how I'm going to do it. Well, do you make enough to save $100,000 a year? Are you diversifying your streams of income? If your goal is to lose 50 pounds by the end of the month, how are you going to do it? Well, I don't know. Well, you're going to have to clean up your diet. You're going to have to start exercising. You know what I'm saying? It's just certain things. Make a plan. Lay it out. And I think the last step before just flat out saying you have to execute it is you have to, and this was another big one for me, you have to avoid the gray areas. And I think that when it comes to a lot of different topics or things, I have a very black and white type of personality, either go or no go. I'm all or nothing in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying you have to be that way, but avoid the gray areas. If your goal, before you do anything, I'm not saying before you breathe or before you take one step, before you go buy something, before you eat something, before you skip a workout, ask yourself, is this action that I'm taking, is it moving me towards my goal or away from my goal? It's a gray area, right? So say that the black is the good, right? Because that's the good, and the white is things that are going to not move you. If your goal is to save $100,000, well, to save the money instead of going to party, that's a black item. That's something that's checked the box. You colored it in, you bubbled it. That's going to move you closer. The white would be to go party, to go blow the money.
Mm-hmm.
Stay out of the gray areas, man. Stay out of if it's not going to move you. Maybe that wasn't a good analogy, but the point is, before you make a decision, ask yourself: is it going to move you closer to your goal? Period. And if it's not going to get you closer to your goal, it needs to come off your priority list, man.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe your goals aren't in alignment with what you really want, and you've made up some fluffy goals to make it sound cool.
Or to make yourself feel pretty.
Yep. I think a lot of people do that. And you know,
like as a good talking point to like tell somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Or even to tell yourself, you know, you talk yourself up, and that's good to a certain extent, but
there's a place for that.
Yeah. You shouldn't definitely, you should not overdo it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So just a little side note there.
Yeah, man. So, I don't think, I think very important steps, man. Big broad strokes here. Define it and be specific. Mm-hmm. Make a plan and avoid the things that don't look, man. They have to come off of your priority. I have a priority list of things that I write down. If it's not moving me towards my goal, it's got to go, man. Mm-hmm. Avoid it. Move it out of your life. Even if it's a little at a time, man, shuffle it out of there, and then execute day after day after day after day, little by little, baby step by baby step. Start getting there, because I know right now in my life I'm on the baby steps, man. I'm taking baby step after baby step after baby step, slowly inching me towards my goals in life. And that's what's worked for me. What about you, Phil? Let's talk a little bit about, while we got some time here, maybe a goal that you have had that you did achieve, and what worked for you, since we're not here to give advice. We're here to talk about what's worked for me. And I talked a lot about, that's kind of what has worked for me, achieving things. What about you? Even if it's very similar, but a little different, like pick a goal that you had and talk about how you got there. Maybe walk us through it.
My major goal for the past, 2.5 years or so has been to get the gym to a profitable, type of space that also, and I'm still working towards this part, but that doesn't necessarily need me all the time.
Right. And
that's a huge goal for me. So by the end of this year, my goal is to only show up because I want to.
Okay.
I'm not there yet, but that's something that I'm working.
Only show up when you want to.
That's right. Something that I'm working towards. Mm-hmm. And up until this point, the main goal was just to increase profitability as we continue to grow, because something that happens as soon as you become profitable in your business, and this is just my experience, but I've heard other people say this as well. As soon as you become profitable, what happens is, well, what's next?
Right.
You want to grow. Well, to grow, now you got to spend. So you're not necessarily so profitable anymore. You know what I mean? So
I didn't know that. I guess it makes sense to me, but I don't know a business.
Because you have to scale. You have to grow, and to grow, you have to spend money.
You really do got to spend money to make it.
Yeah. Not always in the. Yeah, that's pretty much true. You got to spend money to make money. But I think up until this point, up until maybe about, we were profitable within roughly 13 months. But then
opening.
And then that's without me getting paid though. So 13 months in, I could actually pay myself anything.
Right.
And then it took about another almost another year to get to where even after I get paid, there's money left over. And that's really the place you want to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And getting to that was very difficult. Something that helps me and has helped me a lot is actually taking pen to paper and writing those things down.
Same.
On a daily basis. I'm not going to lie. I've kind of slacked off here recently. I'm going to get back on it now that we're talking about it, but
do it.
I'll say
write it down.
That's definitely one thing that helped me in that journey to getting to that point was on a daily basis, writing down the things that not only are the goal, but writing down how I'm going to get to that specific thing. So write it down and then make a bullet point or 2 bullet points underneath that topic to help you move. What are you going to do today
to move forward,
to move towards that thing? And as corny as that sounds, it really works.
What are you going to do today?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you pretty much did what I said here. You defined it. I think that's a big one, man. That is a huge one. I never moved towards any goal until I defined what my goal was, man. When you define that, it's huge. So you defined it. You said you wrote it down, right? You made a plan, and you just started executing day after day after day. And one thing you didn't say, but I think it goes without question, is you avoided things that weren't going to move you closer to that goal.
You have to, because as soon as you stray, then this guy made this reference a few times. You only have so much. I used to be in denial about this. I think that's why I bring it up so much. You only have so much mental capacity, no matter what you're doing. I used to be in total denial about this, that you could just do as much of anything as you wanted. It's not true.
It's not true
at all. So yeah, as soon as you veer away, you run the risk of never getting back on the track. And you can't play that game, working towards your goals, especially like if you're self-employed, moving forward, it's not, I don't know how to say it, it's life or death.
It's emergency.
It's life or death.
Yeah. It's an emergency.
You move forward or you fail. Yeah. And when you fail, when you're totally self-employed, you're doing everything for yourself, and either you move forward or you live on the streets. Yeah. Which one do you want?
Pick one.
Black or white?
Black and white, man. Period. Black and white decisions. Does it move me closer? Does it not? And I think another thing that I can say real quick before we wind this one up is basically no excuses, just results, that corny line. For me, that means I had to quit accepting my own bullshit excuses. You tell yourself in your head, you'll make an excuse, and you'll believe it. You'll justify it, right, in your mind, and that's bullshit. Know when you're bullshitting yourself. Call yourself out.
Because as soon as you don't, you're gonna start letting yourself get away with more stuff.
Letting it slip, and then it compounds and it adds up and it stacks up against you. And I've been somebody who made excuses for myself. And as soon as you take that good, long, hard look in the mirror and realize that you are responsible for your success and or your failure. You're responsible for both, period. Quit accepting your own bullshit excuses.
Yeah, and it's only you.
Yeah, it's only you, man.
Anybody else.
I've accepted my own bullshit excuses entirely too many times, and something that I still struggle with. But as soon as you can quiet that voice and you show that voice in your mind, I think Priscilla calls it the bitch voice that's in your brain. Yeah. Crybaby voice, basically, that you start to think of an excuse in your own mind of why you can't do something. Shut it down. Call it out. Get it out of there. And that's something that I have to practice every single day is my own excuses, man. So define your goals, people. Make a plan. Measure them out. It's black and white. Avoid the gray areas. Execute every day. And no excuses, just results. Don't accept anything else from yourself.
Yeah, pretty simple.
All right, man. Set the goals, people. Great ones. The greatness. You know what would be great? They left us a 5-star review.
That would be great.
With their friends.
Man, why haven't we been saying that?
Take a screenshot. Share it with your friends.
Nah, just share. Because if you're watching on YouTube, you can share the link, like on your Facebook.
Well, you can share it by word of mouth too.
Yep, that too. That's really
people are like, man, you've really been making some life gains lately. What kind of sweet podcast have you been listening to? Only the greatest podcast.
And they're like, whoa, what's
that?
Like,
oh, wow, sweet. And then they tell 3 friends, and they tell 3 friends, and then that's like at least 100 people or something like that.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Don't accept your own bullshit.